Good morning, this is the Big JB for Morning Thunder. It is Wednesday. Had a bit of excitement last night. Some teenager decided that he was going to hot dog around in our cul-de-sac about midnight, 12:30. Was doing donuts, tried taking off from the cul-de-sac. Claims that his flip-flop got caught and he ran into our neighbor's fence. I think it is by sheer luck or the grace of God that he did not tear into their house. Their little boy sleeps in a bedroom right in the front room, so that is pretty serious. So the kid runs into the chain link fence, and then of course tries to take off because he doesn't want to get in trouble, and thusly rips the chain link from the edge of their driveway down to the corner of our street, basically the corner of their property. Had chain link wrapped around his tire. It was ridiculous. There was an astounding amount of stupidity. Kid didn't want to call his dad, didn't want to call insurance, didn't want to call a tow truck. I'm pretty sure that he did not want to get busted. Of course, if I was a dad and you get that call at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, nothing good happens when you get a call. There's nothing good on the end of that line. Usually you're not getting a call. Someone just say, "Hey, Mom, just calling to say I love you." Right. You drunk? That's probably my first response. Unless, of course, you're waiting for a call from somebody who's arriving on a plane trip, and you want to make sure that they're okay. But otherwise, I think for teenagers, this a guy that we used to rent from, my wife and I, we rented a basement apartment from this guy and his wife. They were good friends of ours. He used to say, for teenagers, nothing good happens after midnight. And I don't know. I tend to agree. They would argue, of course. So I was listening to an AM talk radio this morning. I was listening for the traffic because I wanted to see. It got headed out late because of all this stuff this morning, and so I was listening to the traffic. We have a station here that does traffic every 10 minutes on the fours. So 10:14, 10:24, so on. So I was waiting for the traffic report, and this guy who does talk radio was talking about this video that Bill and I put up, talking about how parents who teach creationism are damaging their children. And so they talked a little bit about that. The host, shared some of his opinions on it, shared some audio clips from Bill and I, and man, it got my blood boiling. That topic in particular seems to get me riled up. And here's what bothers me about it. And I've done a video on this before. And it's all about, well, I've talked about the words we speak before, but also about understanding and being careful with the words that we choose to use. And I think that there is a lot of, it's called assumptive language. It's things that where you assume that something is true, you talk about it as if it is, the way it is. So the example that I gave before are the terms pro-life and pro-choice. That is some assumptive language, because what it makes you think of is if somebody opposes that, then they are opposed to that title. So if I'm opposed to what that we call the pro-choice movement, that clearly means that I'm anti-choice. Or on the other side, if I am against pro-life, I'm anti-life. Neither of those is true, obviously. So I think in the same case, rather than going into the details of evolution versus creation, which I would be happy to talk about another time, if you're interested in hearing about it, please leave a comment and let me know if you want to hear my perspective on it. I'm more than happy to share. As you can imagine, you'll probably find it pretty balanced. I don't know, maybe you'll still think I'm off my rocker. I don't know. If you don't think that by now, well, I don't think there's anything I could talk about that would change your opinion. I mean, I've got the whole crow paranoia thing. Not really paranoid of crows, for those of you who haven't watched all my videos. What I have a hard time with is the words that are used in discussion about this stuff. So Bill Nye specifically says about teaching creation, and that the world is 6,000 years old, etc., etc. It goes so far beyond that when you're talking about creation and what you teach your children and the roots of that, that I think that using that is essentially an inflammatory phrase. And what I get tired of is people who are either atheists and don't believe in any sort of God, basically using the creation story and setting this whole thing up as evidence that people who do believe in it are morons, that don't have any kind of brains in their head, and that they are a danger to society. Or you have people who are making statements where they really believe in science, and I believe in science, so don't get me wrong. I think that there is value in the scientific method. I think that science has done a lot for us, so I do not throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to that stuff. But I do have a hard time when science basically tries to discount religion in what they believe for their creation story. Christianity is not the only religious system that has a creation story. There are lots of other religions that have a creation story. And whether you take the creation story literally, or whether you think that there's room for interpretation, for example, being created in 6 days rather than being created in 6 ages, or whatever you want to think of, or created in 6,000 years, whatever you want to look at that, there's a lot of interpretation when it comes into that. And I think that we can't discount that as a belief. Does teaching it to our children damage them? I don't think so. I think that there are parents who do all kinds of things that damage their children. And frankly, I think that allowing your children to watch extremely violent movies, or movies that have high sex content, or allowing your children to play violent games, or games where the material is questionable, I think that's far more damaging to our children than teaching them a creation story or a belief in intelligent design. So that's kind of my perspective. But getting back to the whole point, I kind of got off on a tangent there. Getting back to the point of the language that we use, I think we have to be careful, because when we say that, when we say evolution versus creation, there's a lot of subtopics that fall into those. For example, in evolution, are we talking about evolution of the species? Within a species? Or are we talking about evolution across species? Because that changes how I interpret the question. And when you ask me that, that's going to be, how I respond to that is, well, what do you mean? I think that parents who teach creation at the exclusion of also being open to the conversation of a scientific presentation where it is evolution, where they say, okay, well, this is what our schools and our science is going to teach, and here is the information. I think giving a balanced perspective is fine. In our home, that's what we do. We believe in the creation story, but we also say, here's what you're going to be taught in class, and here is some balance to that information. Saying that we evolved from apes, we don't believe in that, but here is the reason why they say that, and basically we're offering a balanced perspective. If our children end up deciding that they want to believe in evolution, then that's going to be their decision. But like I said, that's a conversation for another time. So I think that that's a big part of it. I think that saying that you're fine with religion, but you're doing a disservice when you're raising your kids, I think that, first of all, somebody who doesn't have any kids doesn't have any business telling me how to raise my kids. I think that there's a lot of language that we have to be very careful about using when we talk about those kinds of things. And so that's what I found, I think, the most annoying in the whole conversation is the language. Like, for somebody saying that there's a preponderance of evidence. Well, where is the preponderance of evidence? If you're going to make that argument, then show me. I mean, I don't deny the fact that we have a fossil record, that there is a DNA information that shows great similarities between certain species. I don't deny any of that. But I think to say that there's a preponderance of evidence, or that one thing is proven, like evolution is a proven, it's not just a theory, it's proven, I don't think that that's accurate. Those are the things where I think we have to be careful, because in certain minds, in certain contexts, I think, yes, we would say, this theory has enough evidence that we would consider it correct. But has it been fully proven according to the scientific method? Probably not. I don't think that you can apply science to religion. I think that to say that because we can't prove a creation theory, the belief of the creation of the world, I don't think that you can say that because we can't prove it, it must not be true. Because as somebody I heard, it was actually a doctor talking about symptoms in patients, and he said that the absence of proof is not proof of absence. So it doesn't, because we don't see proof that God exists, there are certainly things that support the existence of God. And so I think that we have to be very careful on both sides to make sure that we're not using language that is assumptive. As I've mentioned several times before, and I know this has gotten long, but I've mentioned several times before that we need to be careful with the words that we speak and be very clear when we're speaking. And unfortunately, when it comes to the media and our culture, we want sound bites. We want Twitter, right, where we say something in 140 characters or less. It's very easy to use words and language that are sound bites and that basically get the quick idea and the quick message out there without being specific, and I think it causes a lot of division. So those are my thoughts for today. It is a long video today, and I need to get inside to work, so I am going to cut it off today. Again, like I said, if you're interested in more of the creation versus evolution discussion, please feel free to comment. If you have contrasting view to anything that I've shared, I certainly welcome it. Please do it politely. I'm always up for those comments and your feedback, as long as it's done politely. And I don't mind a contrary view, just recognize that the forum of YouTube comments is probably not the place where we're going to get anything resolved. So that's it for today. This has been The Big JB. You can follow me on Twitter at Voice of the Big JB. I will see everybody tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And hey, if you do watch, please make sure that you like the video through YouTube. I know that some of my Facebook users watch through there, and it's easy to like the link that I've done there. But liking the video through YouTube actually helps me more than that. So thanks very much, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.